So yeah, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time. My name is Tamay, and I'm the CEO and founder of Sureel. And today I have Benji and Eileen with me. They're both the co-presidents and the actual music experts, to be frank. I'm more a tech guy. And we're going to give you like a tiny introduction to ourselves, why Sureel exists and what our mission is. And then we really want to focus on our presentation, which is going to be a mix of educational content to understand the AI landscape and how to navigate it, and then also a framework we have been building the last 2 years to help artists, their managers, and anyone who owns or distributes media. Just to myself, quickly to myself, born and raised in Germany. I have a tech background, so I'm one of those evil guys, or I used to be. I did my PhD in AI and robotics. Got lucky, got a few awards, so I got invited by Stanford to work as an assistant professor and moved to San Francisco 5 years ago. And did a lot of research in foundational models. And my focus was always try to understand how AI really works, what happens really under the hood, the black box. Then been a serial entrepreneur, earned decent money, but then decided to do the opposite, get half of my salary and work twice as much. The reason for that is, even though I'm very tech passionate, my family is full of creators, and there are a lot of emotions connected to music, and it really threatens their existence. Some of them don't even know that AI exists or what AI is capable of. So I dedicated now my life and build a team around this to build a framework that gives AI companies the chance to do the right thing and make sure that human legacy can coexist and or shape how AI is using it. The headline of our today's presentation is: you don't need petitions, you need APIs. Petitions are great, they might be the first step, but to be honest, no researcher or AI company is actually going to look at them or do anything with it, because they can't. How can they deal with this? What you need is, we need to speak the same language as they do to make this happen. So our goal is basically to make sure the AI works for you and not against you. With that, with the opening words, I want to hand over to Eileen.
Yeah, thanks, Tamay. Hi, everyone, and Amy, Sharon, Zori, thank you guys for having us today. My name's Eileen Crowley. I'm based in New York City. A brief background about me: I started in the music industry as an artist manager, so it's dear to my heart, after spending a handful of years in the corporate world. And then I got the opportunity to work with some great humans kind of at the forefront of new business models within the music industry. So was able to build a digital singles record label, then the first company doing playlist promotion, and then being the global, the head of the global streaming marketing team at Universal Music Group. In the last few years, I've spent working with entrepreneurs and quite innovative folks like Tamay at Sureel, and bringing music and technology together to again find the opportunity as we keep going into new realms. And so really for this next year, it's figuring out, okay, how do we answer the question of working with AI? How do we use this as an opportunity, and how do we create a model that works for all of us to thrive within the industry? So with that, I'll hand it over to Benji to introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Benji. Thanks for having us, and thanks to, this is a wonderful opportunity. I just saw, you can't see us, is that correct? Maybe I'll stop screen sharing for now, and then we can do it. Hang on. Can you see us now? Click 2, 3 to see Alien. Okay, got it. Yeah, okay. I'll put the presentation back up when we're done here. So yeah, my name's Benji. I'm a recovering musician. So I spent the majority of my life playing music. I'm also the son of 3 managers: mother, father, stepfather. So my entire life I've been in and around the music industry in some way, shape, or form. I look at this technology both from the lens of someone who's built and worked in technology alongside Aileen for many, many years, but also first and foremost as a creator. And I think that managers are going to have a really incredible opportunity to lead the way forward here when it comes to AI policy, and in particular, how they want their artists to be represented in this new ecosystem that's coming. And just to state from the beginning, this isn't on its way. It's arrived, and it arrived at a speed and scale unlike anything I think any of us have ever seen, because it's unprecedented in human history with the size and speed of this technology. So when we speak to this, please understand that like there are definitely concrete things that you can do today, but as Tamay said, really well, inaction is probably the most dangerous thing to do as when AI gets involved. So with that, I'll move over to the presentation. And thanks again, obviously, for having us. We are honored to be here. Okay. Can everyone see that presentation, the first slide?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Okay. Tamay. Aileen, sorry.
Yeah, so I'll take this one. So just one thing, as Benji said, it is already here. And so your art, your human creations, your music is what AI companies are calling their training data. And they haven't asked us for our permission to use it. And it's out there. And we kind of see this in the fact that major labels are suing Udio and Sunu, which are the AI song generators, the Authors Guild, Getty Images, music publishers, New York Times. Again, all of these entities that are creators, their human creations are being used to train and are being used. So again, it's very important that again we take this opportunity and take action. And so Benji, you can move forward to the next slide. And again, our goal is to really continue having human artists having attribution for their work, and being able to continue to thrive commercially. So again, there's been great building of consensus within the industry among all types of artists, and with 36,000 signatures on the petition. I think it's now taking that and actually moving it towards a tangible technical solution. And I think that's where, being able to say, AI companies, they want to do the right thing, and we believe that. But again, allowing them to see how to use and not use our creations, our songs, our intellectual property to train their models. And I think now that we have some consensus of how we can work together, now it's to move it to these tangible and technical solutions that Benji and Tamay are now going to talk through a bit more just of how Sureel works and how to, again, get into protecting and controlling your intellectual property, your copyrights, your music.
Awesome. So one of the things that Aileen mentioned here is this idea that they want to do the right thing. And I think that in the end, we're going to have to show AI companies a path to do the right thing, because at the moment, I don't think that they can conceive of one. So we believe that artists have to take this in hand, and they have to take it in hand fast. The streaming market share licensing model, which is the current one, which as was mentioned earlier, is the Spotify model, the Apple model, which is basically you have human creators who are licensing their works to streaming services and renewing those deals every 3 years. And it's set, certain rates of payouts are set by the various rights holders. And it's sort of like if you think of it in terms of Spotify, it's a mutually abusive relationship. It's like, you need our songs, we need your money, and we sort of make it work together. What happens with AI is something that is qualitatively different. It will not work the same way. And there's a very simple reason for this, which is that the AI's companies take the creator's music and they turn it into data. So basically, an AI isn't listening to the song in the same way that you would the human would. It is literally breaking it down. To use simplistic terminology, which Tamay will cringe over, is it's turning it into maths effectively. And it uses that to create its first AI model. Once that model has been created, once that first AI model has been created, the opportunity exists for the AI company to create what it calls synthetic data, which means it's turning these original songs into new songs that give it enough of a representation of what that song is to make it sound like what it needs to. And then it can use that synthetic data to create its second model. So basically, these AI companies are generating millions and millions of songs. Humans are generating them via these companies. And these songs will eventually be used to replace the original creator's music in the training section. It's not there yet, but this idea that if we wait and try and sue our way out of this, or if we try and, license blind, as we call it, eventually these models do not need the creator's works to create what they want to create. And this is a really important thing, because the goal of the AI companies is to have synthetic data, right, which is unattributable back to the originals. And it's possible. At the moment, there's some challenges to it, technically speaking, which Tamay can get into and we can answer questions on later. But ultimately, to your point, they are based on original works. However, once you've extrapolated from them what you need, you can generate new things from them without needing to go back to the originals. So what Sureel offers is the opportunity to protect, which means you can opt your works in or out of AI training. Control, which means you can set granular rules for the training and usage. So what you can do is you can basically have not to be used in this type of setting, to be used in this type of setting. Don't change it by too much. Change it by only a little bit. Like all these things become an option. And you can also identify where AI companies have likely trained on your music. So you can sit there and analyze outputs of AI companies to figure out if they're using your works or not. And then most importantly, you can monetize, which means that you can license these AI companies in ways that benefit the creators as opposed to ways that exploit them. And this is a really important distinction that we'll get into further on down the line. But we do believe, I should say, that in the end, fairly licensing these AI companies is the future, not opting out. And we'll talk about that when we talk about attribution share. So as far as the AI opportunity goes, at the moment, and this is Sureel's framework, right? So IP owners today, if they want to use Sureel to protect, control, and monetize, put their music into what we call the AI DNA registry. And this is basically doing what an AI company would do to your music if it scraped it off the internet and turning it into effectively its DNA. And that puts it into the attribution technology. And what it gives every artist is an API. APIs are effectively how computers speak to each other, right? So what you're not saying is, here's my song title, don't include it in your training because it doesn't know what a song title is. That's meaningless information. What it needs to know is, what does this song sound like? What does it feel like, on and on? And that's something that AI can really distill. So by putting your works behind this API, you get the opportunities to work with 3 different types of AI companies. So for a non-compliant AI company, this is a company that has basically just wholesale ripped music off the internet and turned it into its training data and is now making hundreds of millions of dollars out of it. These would be non-compliant AI companies. And what that means is, once your music is turned into this AI DNA, we can scan and audit those companies to figure out what they're using of yours, so that if you're wanting to license them, you can say, hey, by the way, we notice you're using a lot of our music in this, so here's how you can do the right thing. It doesn't obligate them to, but it's a way of legally showing them, at this time and at this date, we put our music behind these APIs and showed you how to do the right thing. If you don't want to, that's on you, but it is technically possible to come here and figure out what's next, and a way of working together. Pseudo-compliant AI companies, these are companies that don't necessarily want to do a licensing deal with you, but also want to make sure that they're not infringing on music that they're outputting. So this would be an example of where they would check Sureel's APIs, which has your music behind it, to make sure, hey, are we infringing on this music when we shouldn't be? And so those would be not ideal, again, but fair game. What we want to do is get both the AI compliant, both the non-compliant companies to become partnering companies. And these are companies that agree that the only place they're going to get their music and media from is from these APIs where we, the creators, have put it, right? And so that means that you can license them based not on a yearly fee, which basically means you're blind, not on how many people have signed up or some kind of like rev share deal that is undefined, but on how much your AI, because what that enables you to do is, if they're using your work in millions of different creations, you want to know about it. And so in the absence of APIs, if we just do petitions and say, keep my songs out, we'll never know if we're doing the right thing, if they're doing the right thing. If you do it based on users, again, that's relying on them to do the right thing when they haven't thus far. And then the other thing is, you never, never, never want to send them your music. You want to send it to them via this method, because this way you're showing them what is opted in and opted out. So it's basically speaking to them in a language that they can understand. And one of the reasons that this is so important is, when you put your music behind these APIs, you're saying, from this time and at this date, we have shown you how to do the right thing in a way that is technically easier for you than scraping the internet. And at this time and date, we've also begun to scan and audit you to see if your outputs are infringing. So again, it's not requiring them to do it, but it's giving them the opportunity, plus a bit of a stick to say, we can scan and audit you. At the very least, you should be checking to see if stuff's going on the outside. So anyway, that's sort of like the overview of that. Tamay, do you want to go into the next bit?
Yeah, just one more sentence to the previous slide. So what Sureel does is really acts almost like as we call it attribution as a service. It's a mobile attachable plug and play solution that basically wraps around those partnering companies and does the attribution work for them, right? And the way we define attribution is basically tracing back and see what piece of the training data influenced every single AI output. So that's what Benji meant with granular control, because now if you get a number between 0 and 100%, as an artist, you can actually, you don't only have a binary option, opt in or opt out. You can say, you know what, I actually want to benefit from this solution. I want to opt in, but I want to make sure I do not compete against my own derivatives, right? So I want to set a limit and say, cap it at 60% attribution. That means you still get some money, but you make sure you're not competing against yourself. And the way we have done this is, we started this 2 years ago, actually. You can go to the next slide, is that we are now capable of giving attribution on different levels, depending on your needs. So we can give attribution to a whole label, basically catalog, on artist level, on song level, and we also just finished stem level. So you see the attribution on an individual stem level. And the most recent update we have is MIDI as well, and lyric. That means it's basically instrument agnostic to understand how much you should be attributed. Can you go to the next slide, please? And just go in the middle of the...
Sure.
Yeah, a bit more, please.
Yeah.
So this is, yes, like we see a breakdown. So this is an example. I don't know if you guys see it, but what happened here is that this is a playground on Sureel. You can try it out yourself. There was basically a prompt that generated this song, this melody. And below that, you see a breakdown of which artists influenced this particular song. You see a full breakdown per track, per stem. You see it individually, even over time. So if you're fully transparent and just we don't give you just a random number, we show you exactly where we believe that you attribute it to this particular piece. Now, this helps with the granular control we mentioned before, and it also helps to artist discovery and has like many benefits to it, and incentivizes artists to contribute. Next slide. Yeah, that's a new bench.
So what we wanted to show is this is a non-AI example, but we wanted to show you this technology as it's analyzing two songs that are currently in a lawsuit. And this, I think, to speak to your point, Adele, that you put in the chat here, and Michelle, that you concurred with, which is why would AI companies want to do the right thing? Well, the answer is today they have most artists and creators have no technical way to show them what the right thing is. But secondarily, they also have no stick with which to say, listen, we know what's going on. So one of the things that we've been able, that Sureel did here, is basically break down a track, two tracks, to figure out similarities and to see how similar the songs effectively were to each other. So on the top left, you've got the overall influence. Then you've got the vocal track to vocal track, piano to instrumental, vocal melody, piano to instrumental, and then basically piano to bass. So what this enables you to do and go through to figure out what's happening as it's happening. So normally this would be done, by a musicologist, and effectively by the time at the end of the song, you get a pretty good picture of what is going on literally from that AI DNA, including at the lyrics level. So how similar are the two songs together? Now, if you imagine that you have this working towards the scanning and auditing function of AIs, I think that could be a really interesting sort of way to look at it. This isn't what this is designed for. It's not meant to be like used in lawsuits, but it's possible. But the entire part to this is, well, the most important thing I think to look at is you can see where it's not important, but you can also see where it is. And so you can see these similarities within it. So this is, again, using AI for creators' good, as opposed to just sort of being part of that exploitation. Another thing that we wanted to show you was, hang on, the slide will not move now. Okay, here we go. So what we did here was a large rights holder that you guys will probably have heard of gave us 3 songs. Oh, we've gone to the end of this proposal now. Hang on, sorry. This takes a second. Apologies, give it 1 second to load. We got heavy slides. No? Sorry guys, I'll reload this in 1 second, but I just want to try it one more time. There we go. Oh. We can edit this bit out, right? So, as I was saying, we took 150 of the most streamed songs from Suno and Udio. So these were the songs that basically are on their website, and some of them have been streamed up to 2.4, 2.6 million times. No one's getting paid for those. And the rights holder asked us to analyze if any of a famous gangster rap song, a famous hip hop song, rap song, or a famous country song was basically being used by any of these recordings on this homepage. This is what Tamay likes to call attribution likelihood. So what that does is effectively it shows us that there's minor influences happening with these 3 songs based on the outputs of Suno and Udio. Remember, these are not related. This isn't like we looked for a country song and a country song, we looked for rap song and rap song. This is just whatever they had on the homepage. And what we found was that there's substantial attribution happening, even with the random stuff that they're generating on the homepage. And then there is critical attribution happening just by mere fact of these songs having been created in the first place, because they've been trained on this music. So we can basically see that, with an attribution likelihood score, which Tamay can talk to in depth. And then we took that information and then we sort of asked it, what would happen if we prompted it to try and make songs that sounded like this famous gangster rap, this famous hip hop song, and this famous country song. And when we did that, it basically went off the charts, because when you try and make it sound like the famous song, it's literally taking pieces of that AI DNA to create the new song. And when I pushed this, when I showed this to a room full of creators, what was so interesting was they were listening to the song. They're like, this kind of sounds like it, but what is it? And the answer is, it's coming from there. So there's sort of a mathematical way that this is done, and attribution likelihood is obviously going to be a controversial subject. But one of the things that happens is once you put your work into the Sureel APIs, then basically this is the type of analysis that can be running so that if there are lawsuits in the future, you can be part of them. But more, the goal is to get the AI companies to come to the table, do the right thing, and license in a way that is fair, that would show, hey, if your #1 famous country song is generating a bunch of songs like mine, well, I would ask on the recording side, that's important, but on the publishing side, I think it could be even more important, which is another thing that we can get into. The other thing that's really striking is for these 3 songs, they were not just creating the genre that they came from. So if you think about it, if you look at the country song was mostly creating other country songs, but it was also creating metal, and it was also creating rock. And then the famous hip hop and rap song, which by the way had a sample in it, was also creating rock, metal, and reggae. And so then the famous gangster rap song was also creating metal, rock, hip hop, R&B. So if you look at just those 3 songs, they were influencing across the spectrum of genres. So it's not a simple thing as saying, oh, we're going to listen to the AI fingerprints and see if that country song sounds like the country song. It doesn't work that way. It's taking pieces from every single part of different songs to create literally new creations across genres.
Actually, Benji, can I add something?
Please.
Yeah, I think the main differentiator here is that previous technologies who tried to do something like that, they used ACR technologies by basically trying to fingerprint and finding samples within the output of the AI song, right? AI is extremely powerful. Like from a technical point of view, AI is able to probably reproduce it to very, very close to the training data. AI is possible to create different versions of you, but AI is also powerful enough to extrapolate to new versions that contain no signature, no fingerprint, nothing. It might actually sound completely different. Our idea was, or our goal was, how can we still find out if and how much your data basically helped them to come up with this? Because you can't prove they use it. Like, let's say you have a famous hip hop song, right? And then they create a country song. You would think there is no, there's no connection with it. What we do is we find that connection. The technology, it's published, it's a patent published and issued. You can have a look, and 5 more coming. What it does basically, it looks at the AI, it sees and observes it and see like, how do you learn from this data? Which node is activated? Which neural path is chosen to come up with a certain output? And how can we relate this back to your content? So most people think the AI output has to sound extremely close to your own, song you have created. It doesn't. Actually, it doesn't. It does not at all. It can sound completely different. But I see already some comments where they said they used our data. That's exactly the point. And your data is not only influencing things that sound like you, but many, 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 many other versions of that as well. And that's what the attribution engine basically does. Just wanted to add that, Bench.
Yeah. No, and I think also to Jason's question here, do you think AI companies are going to create competing attribution models? I think the answer is probably yes. But I think they've gone and wholesale scraped and taken from the creative community already. So my question would be, would you trust them? Even if law required them to do attribution, think of the size of these companies. So I think the answer is that there needs to be neutral third parties that are offering technical solutions that they can basically plug into, again, to go from being non-compliant to compliant, because there's no, it's actually easier for them to figure this out via APIs than it is to try and figure it out from lists of songs presented in a database. I think the other thing to remember here is that AI isn't going anywhere, and it's estimated that the generative AI market is going to hit basically $3 billion by 2028. And I think it's extraordinary that, like, you know, creators need to be a part of this so that it can grow even bigger. Again, they can also opt out if they want. That's certainly a part, but we think that in the long term, that's not going to be the best move for most to make. And the reason we think that is because of what Mike Pawzinski coined as attribution share. And if you think today that currently we compete on market share, so the more streams you get in a streaming service, the better that is for major label A, B, or C, or, you know, larger independents. But ultimately, it's projected that 60% of all media will use, will basically be AI created or AI assisted. 60% of every piece of media created, which means that eventually that's going to grow larger than the traditional market share business. So if our works, if our AI DNA is not included in that, again, it won't sound like us. It could be like taking a little bit of something that you wouldn't expect to create something else you wouldn't expect. If we're not included in that, then we don't get to scale along with that market share business. And I think that that's on that's on both the publishing side and the recording side, because one argument would be you never ask an AI prompt, you never prompt an AI to say, make me a recording. You say, make me a song. And so they're literally saying, well, a song is constructed of a verse and a chorus. What are the similarities between this? What's the melody? What's the MIDI profile of it? So I think that there's a really interesting and very profound market shift about to happen. And we published work on the economics of how this might work, but we believe deeply that getting AI's companies to be compliant and artists participating in an attribution share market is going to be bigger than the current market by a long shot.
Yeah, and Benji, I think that piece of just AI is not going anywhere. And I think about, you know, I think about Spotify for artists. I think about these dashboards that we're looking at every day to see like how music doing, what stream count, etc. I think this now shifts a bit to say, you know, here's a dashboard of seeing the AI uses of our music, understanding, you know, the attribution per the label, per the artist, per the track, and going deeper in that data. Again, I think it's so important that like we are attributing back to the human creator. And I think this is part of what, you know, Sureel's goal is. Tamay spoke about it earlier. He's created this technology because he comes from a family of artists and is looking to solve that problem for them, and in turn is solving for the creator economy, all the creators on this call, all the artist managers on this call. And so, you know, we see this as really taking action to protect what you've all spent hours of creating in the studio, in promotion, in marketing, and making sure that you're protecting it, and can do that easily by just taking action now. As we said, I think the worst thing you do is take no action and do nothing. I think it's really important to, again, make sure you've attributed your work to your name. And I think just, you know, for a few cents a day, you can protect your assets. And that's something that we really urge everyone to do, whether it's with Sureel or another platform, but just really be able to make sure that it's clear that you are the owner of your own creation.
It was per month, Eileen. Yeah. Awesome. So thanks for listening to us. Happy to answer questions. And I think we'll be in breakout rooms if that's correct. But if you want to learn more, you can definitely sign up to Sureel. Just to share as well, I'm an artist myself. I registered all of my works on the platform. I chose to opt in to AI training. It took me probably 15 minutes of actual time to do so.